tonight. The province tries to stop the CRA from going after its bank account over carbon tax payments. We head to Mosaic Stadium for a preview of tonight's Rider game. And a pair of zebras from Saskatoon are settling into their new home on the East Coast.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is game day, Thursday, July 4th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for watching. The carbon tax dispute between the federal and provincial governments is heating up again. The province now says it's taking legal action to prevent Ottawa from clawing back tax money. Alexander Kwan brings us the latest.
Saskatchewan's Minister of Justice says the province is filing an injunction against the Canada Revenue Agency. It wants a judicial review after the CRA is attempting to garner $28 million it believes is owed under the federal carbon tax program. Earlier this year, the province vowed to not collect the carbon tax on natural gas. Minister Bronwyn Eyre says Ottawa's decision to exempt home heating oil was unfair to provinces, including Saskatchewan.
Although one of the most ancient precepts of the law is that it be applied fairly. And in this case, we have seen a government which has carved out exceptions and exemptions for one part of the country.
Home heating oil is primarily used in Atlantic Canada, while about 85% of Sask Energy's residential customers in the province use natural gas to heat their homes. Although the province has filed its lawsuit, copies of the documents were not available to the public, which means we don't know their specific claims. But the province could be facing an uphill battle.
They will also need to show that if the injunction is not granted, Saskatchewan will suffer irreparable harm. Usually money, which is what the CRA is proposing to collect from Saskatchewan, is not irreparable harm.
The federal government does not appear to be backing down. In a statement, the Minister of National Revenue said Saskatchewan is responsible for remitting the carbon tax and must follow federal law like any other organization. She says there are consequences to not following the law, which has been deemed constitutional, and added that the CRA is on the case and has pursued collections as required by law. There's no word on when the injunction will be heard in federal court. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
Today was sentencing day for Greg Fertuck. A Saskatoon judge ruled last month that Fertuck killed his wife Sheree nearly a decade ago. Now he's heading to prison for a very long time. Bertush Dayal has more.
Greg Fertuck had his final day in court today and was still claiming innocence, telling the court that he lied to the undercover officers about shooting his wife Sheree and then dumping her body. But Justice Richard Danlick didn't believe him. He charged him of first-degree murder, calling him a cold, callous and heartless killer. Sheree Fertuck has not been seen since she disappeared in December of 2015. That's when Fertuck got into a confrontation with Sheree at the gravel pit. He shot her twice, loaded her body in his truck and dumped her in a rural area. Today, the court heard 5 victim impact statements, 3 from Sheree's sisters and 2 from her daughters.
There wasn't closure for our mom, and that's what took her life. And, you know, I know we keep going back to that, but it truly did. When Greg murdered Sheree, he murdered our mom. And it's, there's no denying that he is responsible, solely responsible for our mom's death.
Justice has been served. Greg has been found guilty of murdering Sheree, but not closure and giving Sheree the proper resting place that she deserves. So that's tough. It's going to be hard to, move forward, knowing that she's out there somewhere.
The Crown prosecutor is pleased with the sentence.
The Crown doesn't prosecute people that we don't think are guilty. And so I've always believed Mr. Fertuck is guilty. When I watched his confession to undercover officers, I knew that he had killed his wife, and the justice's verdict confirms that.
Fertuck receives an automatic life sentence with no eligibility for parole for 25 years. He will also serve a 4-year sentence concurrently for interfering with Sheree's body. With the time served, Fertuck can apply for parole in 20 years when he's 90 years old. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Regina police have arrested and charged a suspect they believe stabbed 2 people setting up a yard sale. It happened on 17th Avenue, just north of Sheldon Williams Collegiate on June 20th. Both victims were sent to hospital. Police now say a third person was also beat up by the suspect. 34-year-old Vandel Chad Friday is charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and assault. Federated CoOp is on its 2nd week recovering from a cyber attack. The situation started last week and has affected its gas stations and grocery stores. The company now says all of its nearly 400 card-locked gas stations in Western Canada are back online. So far, it believes no customer data has been compromised, but one expert says the company's statements have been unclear and it should be more transparent and truthful with customers.
They need to say what they know, what they don't know, what assumptions they're chasing down. I find that most organizations right now, when they respond to data breaches and what they're saying publicly, is heavily sanitized. It's written by lawyers. It's not written as a way of trying to instill transparency or trust with their constituents or with their customers, with their members.
Vogel says determining whether customer data has been compromised is a long and taxing process. He also says it's hard to know when the cyber attack will be fully resolved. Well, there is a sea of green in Regina tonight. Kickoff is just under an hour away for the second Riders home game of the season, and they are hoping to defend their 3-0 record. But with starting quarterback Trevor Harris out, there's a lot of pressure on backup QB Sheree Patterson. CBC's Liam O'Connor is at Mosaic Stadium tonight with more. Liam, of course, the gate's now open. What's the mood there right now?
Well, Ethan, the spirits are definitely high in the stadium right now and outside. I was in Confederation Park at the party park, and I was talking to a few fans, and they were really hoping that the Rough Riders can come through with this 4th win in a row. But that's definitely, the Rough Riders are up against it tonight, that's for sure, against the Toronto Argonauts. Not only is it a team they haven't beat since 2021, but on top of that, their main QB, Trevor Harris, was injured in their last game against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He injured his knee. Coach Corey Mace said that it was a moderate injury, so he's only on the 6-game injury list, and Mace said that, he could be coming back sooner than that, but they're playing it by ear for now. And in the meantime, in comes Sheree Patterson, their backup QB, who's going to be playing tonight. And we got a glimpse of what he could do in their last game when he filled in against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And he threw 4 for 10. He completed 4 out of 10 of his passes, and he got 41 yards. So this time we'll be able to see what he can do over the entirety of the game. And it's also his first CFL start. So we spoke to him yesterday, and here's a little of what he had to say.
Since camp last year as well, I've been working with these guys. But to consistently, no matter where you are, when you go with the ones and you're kind of starting a game, that definitely helps with the chemistry. Some guys do different things on different routes, so just being on the same page, I think that's the biggest thing. Being the next guy up in any quarterback room, I'm just making sure I'm always ready to go and being the best teammate and leader I can possibly be.
So, Liam, it sounds like Patterson is excited. How is the crowd there feeling, and how are ticket sales for tonight's game?
Oh, the crowd is really starting to pile in, and it's getting louder and louder by the minute, and it's getting harder to talk here, too. But, as for tickets, I reached out to the Rough Riders to see if I could get a glimpse at how many tickets they had sold. They're staying kind of tight-lipped about that, and they're going to be releasing that after the 4th quarter of the game. But I did check on Ticketmaster beforehand, and there's lots of nosebleed tickets left. The corners of the stadium are still available. Hill Country, there's still lots of tickets there. So if you're wanting to get tickets, you can come down and you can grab some still. Ethan?
All right, thank you very much, Liam. CBC's Liam O'Connor at Mosaic Stadium tonight. Kickoff between the Riders and Argos is at 7 o'clock. Well, an NHL first for Saskatchewan's Jessica Campbell. The Seattle Kraken have named her the first full-time female assistant coach in the league. She had been working for the team's minor league franchise. Campbell was also the first female assistant coach at the AHL level.
the biggest thing is that I'm reminded often, and it just puts a lot of meaning into the work. And I know that if the team has success and that my impact is a good one, then it could potentially open up doors for others.
Campbell's hockey career has taken her around the world. She's played in the Canadian Women's Hockey League for the Canadian national team and worked as an assistant coach in Europe. Well, it's been a year since 5 zebras were seized by conservation officers from a rural Saskatchewan property. They were taken to the Saskatoon Forestry Park and Zoo, but then a turf war split the group apart. This spring, 2 were shipped off to New Brunswick, and we checked in to see how they're all doing.
The smaller one that often comes up to us a little bit quicker and is the curious one is Coffee. And the female in the back that has that beautiful marking just above her left eye is Lilu. Saskatoon Forestry Park had these animals arrive with them in 2023. They had a group of 5 animals that they received. These 5 animals were brought across the border into Canada illegally. These 2 animals weren't working well in the group.
We had to move Coffee off for some medical procedures, and when we did that, we ended up moving Lilu over there with him so that they would be companions. And then the way that the zebra's dynamic ended up working out was those 2 really formed a very close pair bond, and our 3, Marty, Missy, and Shadow, formed a really close pair bond. So the best decision was to keep them separated and move Coffee and Lulu to Moncton.
For zebras, they're fairly calm. Zebras are known to be scared very easily, but they do seem to get used to this place quite well. They are very bonded to each other and like to spend as much time possible next to each other.
Once they finish their quarantine in that small holding area, we'll then introduce them to the large yard. These are animals that feel most comfortable in a herd of animals, and that's the reason that we will try to mix them back with those Watusi cows as well.
Now, what about the 3 that are here? How are things going for them?
Really, really well. Marty, Shadow, and Missy have settled in really well. They know their routines. Now that it's starting to get a little warmer, they'll be out a little bit more. They'll be grazing on the grass and doing a little more things like that.
Well, the latest crop report is out today, and farmers are reporting a good overall yield for hay and pastures. But too much rain means some crops are flooded out, and it's hard to believe, but there are actually some areas that need more rain. But this canola appears to be coming up nicely in just south of Regina. Looks like those wet crops will have some nice, hot, sunny weather to dry out in, though. I'll have a look at our full forecast when we come back. Hurricane Beryl is now churning across the Caribbean toward Mexico as a Category 3 storm. Both the Cayman Islands and Jamaica avoided a direct hit from the storm, which skirted along the southern coasts. Beryl brushed past the Caymans earlier today with winds topping 200 kilometers an hour and dropping more than 100 millimeters of rain in some places. The storm arrived in Jamaica yesterday evening as a Category 4 hurricane. It uprooted trees, knocked down signs, and tore the roofs off of homes, but there are no reports of deaths. Preparations for the storm are underway along the east coast of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Beryl is expected to arrive later tonight or early tomorrow.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac, proud partner of the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
And the Rider game, of course, underway in just under 45 minutes from now, and the skies holding up outside of Mosaic Stadium. No rain to speak of right now. Nice temperature of 21 degrees in the city. If we take a look at satellite radar, we can see, though, that there are showers moving through a lot of the rest of south and central Saskatchewan. Regina, we've been lucky so far here, but a few of those may make their way into the Queen City through game time tonight. A lot of these showers and thunderstorms, though, staying mostly non-severe. We did have some severe thunderstorm warnings in effect a little bit earlier, and a funnel cloud advisory, which you can see there now has dropped off for eastern sections of the province, so that threat has come to an end. Of course, we've been getting quite a bit of rain, no surprise, from all these showers and thunderstorms, and especially in the month of June, that was the case, with some places in the province getting nearly twice as much as they normally get in an average June. That includes places like Saskatoon, Prince Albert, and Meadow Lake, but you see there along the far south of the province, we could actually stand to get a little more rain. June was also a little bit cooler than normal, nearly 3 degrees cooler than normal in some places, including Key Lake, which actually saw its coldest June on record, which goes back about 50 years or so. And just to give you an idea of how cold things have been, Maple Creek, you hit 21.1 degrees back on January 30th. That's the new provincial January hot temperature record. Canada Day, well, you only made it to 20.6 degrees. And actually, there were numerous days in June where we weren't even as warm as we were on January 30th. But things are starting to improve. Temperatures, as you can see, throughout much of the province getting into those mid-20s for many of us, and through south and central. A few of us dropping back into the teens, but it's been mostly nice temperature-wise now. Showers and storms going to die off as we head through the night, but we're going to do this whole thing over again tomorrow. Storms popping up here and there, but most of them should be non-severe. Funnel cloud risk returns to eastern sections of the province again. We'll replay that again on Saturday before high pressure starts to move in on Sunday, giving us a better chance for just some sunshine without being interrupted by showers and storms. And that high pressure means that the wind's going to be staying fairly light as well. So for Regina, we take a bit of a hit temperature-wise tomorrow with the chance of some showers and storms in the afternoon. But then, as you can see, things starting to clear out. And a ridge in the jet stream means that we're going to get temperatures near or above 30 degrees for the middle of next week. And yes, that is a humidex value of near 40 next Wednesday. So your heads up now for that. And Saskatoon, nearly identical forecast here. The possibility of some showers on Sunday, but then after that, things similar to Regina getting very toasty. Stay with us. We'll have more news coming up after the break. The federal government's decision to impose a digital services tax has triggered fears of trade retaliation. Last night, Ottawa implemented a 3% tax on revenues that tech giants like Google, Amazon, and Netflix generate in Canada. The finance minister says the move puts Canada in line with other G7 countries.
A number of other partners of Canada and the US, UK, France, Italy, to name just a few, currently have a DST in place and are not subject to U.S. trade retaliation. And, you know, as finance minister and deputy prime minister, I just can't accept Canada indefinitely being in an inferior position to other countries who are our partners and allies.
Freeland points out that Canada delayed implementing its own tax in hopes that an international agreement would be reached. However, those efforts remain stalled. The tax is retroactive to June 28th. The Parliamentary Budget Office estimates the tax will bring in more than $7 billion over 5 years. The U.S. tech industry is pressuring Washington to take action against the tax. Some Canadian groups also oppose the tax, saying it will push up costs for consumers. Do you love Regina? Well, that was the topic of our noon radio show Blue Sky today. The question was sparked by a former Regina resident who says she's sick of defending the Queen City to people who think it's subpar.
What annoys me is when I say with pride and wonderful memories where I'm from, and people just feel that they're entitled to tell me that where I'm from, where I spent the first 18 years of my life, is a hole. I think sometimes that people see beauty in one way, and they see it as mountains or they see it as oceans, and they don't get the quiet but majestic beauty of the prairies.
Gavel has written a full opinion article on our website, cbc.ca/sask. So we figured we'd hit the streets to see how people in Regina feel about living in the Queen City.
I went to BC, Alberta, Brampton, Ontario, everywhere, but I like the Regina the most because I like the calmest city ever.
I mean, I've heard people say something negative, but not very often.
What's your own feelings about the place that you live?
I think it's an okay place to live.
In the rest of Canada, yeah, I think Regina is kind of looked down on a little bit, as we're, you know, a little bit country, a little bit redneck here. But when I'm international, I find, especially in South America, Central America, they're laughing a lot just at how we pronounce it.
People actually, they're making fun of the Regina because of, you know, the words that the other, you know, something reflected to the women. I don't care because I'm here because I have a very good job here. So if they said, oh, you're from Regina, but for me, for my perception, I love Regina because I start from Regina, my future here already have.
My wife is still wishing maybe she had stayed in Saskatoon, you know, because it's growing and we had lots of friends there.
Well, a few high-profile Regina residents joined Blue Sky today to share their thoughts about Regina. They include TV personality Zarka Nawaz and former Rough Rider Wes Cates.
I think they wonder why I'm not living in LA or Toronto. And then I tell them, well, I actually grew up in Toronto. So I know everything about Toronto and I've been there, seen it, done it. So I've got it out of my system and I know exactly what that lifestyle is like. And I think the people who truly understand this are families and parents of children because they see their kids thrive and grow and be part of so many activities and be able to do so much more than a parent, say, in Toronto could do with their child.
But I always say, like, Regina showed me love. There's plenty to do here. People complain about it being flat. I'm from Ohio. It's flat in Ohio too. It's Ohio Valley. So I'm like, hey, I'd rather that than the treacherous mountains and all that type of stuff. The weather seems to be more mild in regions like this, and I just don't get it. It's convenient. It's a good city. I live on the edge of town, literally back of Farmers Field. I can drive to my office, be at my desk in 30 minutes. I don't get a ton of jokes about it. When people do joke about it, I'm like, the conveniences we enjoy much more outweigh all the things you can get into. I mean, when you go about your day-to-day life, how often are you really running around the city, going out to eat? There's plenty of great restaurants and things to do here as well.
And if you want to hear that whole conversation, you can check out today's Blue Sky segment on our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Well, game time just over 30 minutes from now at Mosaic Stadium, and we're looking at the possibility of some showers and storms moving in Regina. But for kickoff at 7 o'clock, 20 degrees, that chance of showers and storms likely dropping off, though, as we get probably past halftime. Taking a look at our temperature tomorrow in Regina, 17 under mostly sunny skies, and there is, again, the chance of some showers and thunderstorms as we get into the afternoon in Regina. For Saskatoon, probably starting on a mostly sunny note as well, as we see the winds staying fairly light, which is nice, and then getting into the afternoon, less of a chance of showers and storms for Saskatoon, but still could be a little bit unsettled. Well, a former Saskatchewan journalist has created a video game to give people a taste of what goes into the news. The game is called Times and Galaxy. It puts people in the skin of a robotic reporter interning at the solar system's most reputable paper. Players navigate intergalactic stories, decide how to print them, and see how that affects their reputation. It was developed by Ben Jelena, a crime reporter and U of R graduate.
I think even the first story is you get thrown into a not a crime scene, but an accident scene with a spaceship, and you're interviewing robot police officers, and that was something I was doing. You know, every day I was interviewing robots, and so I threw in some, you know. There are all kinds of kind of in-jokes that I think people who work in journalism will pick up on pretty quickly, but people who don't work in journalism, we tried to make those jokes and those references open to them.
And Times and Galaxy released this spring on PC and console systems. And that is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can head to our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.